So I'm just a regular guy that started hiking and figured out that it was like recentering me. So from the long days of, the wind and grind of workflow and whatnot, and then just going out trying to be in nature, AV came from. So I used to work on oil platforms offshore. So this has followed me. That name's followed me for years. Um, and then Louisiana, apparently they don't eat a lot of gravy. And I eat gravy being from the South on biscuits, rice, mashed potato. We eat gravy on everything. And I hear a lot of the hikers, just slow it down that first month, until you get your trail legs. Don't just run because you will get injured.
Welcome to episode number 7 of the LT Hikes Trail Stories podcast. Real stories from thru hikers and people from the trail community. Today I'm speaking with Bradley, aka Gravy, a hiker who will be starting a thru hike of the Appalachian Trail this year. Gravy, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, how are you? I'm glad to
I am
be
well.
here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for agreeing to join me today and to talk about your hike that's coming up. I'm so excited for you. It's almost February. And what is your start date?
February 21st, so we're down to 24 days or something. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, my wife and my sister started on February 14th, Valentine's Day. I picked that date. I thought it was a good date, but it's an early start. Your start's an early start. There's pros and cons to that, and we could certainly talk about some of that. Yeah. So your trail name's Gravy. For folks who are, just meeting you for the first time, who are you? Who's Bradley? And how did you get that trail name?
So I'm just a regular guy that started hiking and figured out that it was like recentering me. So from the long days of, the wind and grind of workflow and whatnot, and then just going out trying to be in nature, it just reset me and started things. I don't know. It just made me feel good. Hey, that's where I was supposed to be, is what I figured out real quick. Um, Gravy came from. So I used to work on oil platforms offshore. So this has followed me. That name's followed me for years. Um, and then Louisiana, apparently they don't eat a lot of gravy. And I eat gravy being from the South on biscuits, rice, mashed potato. We eat gravy on everything. So it just kind of stemmed from there. So not necessarily a trail name, but it's just followed me for whatever reason. So we stuck with
So
it.
what state do you live in?
I am from upstate of South Carolina, good old
Oh, okay.
Carolinas. About
Yeah.
15
So
minutes
you're
from the
not
foothills, 20 minutes.
perfect. One of the people I finished my thru hike with, I spent a couple months with towards the end there was Fission, Fission, and he's from South Carolina. I think he said he's about 45 minutes from the trail, the Foothills Trail. So he's from down in your area.
It's awesome to be here and have a trail like that that's accessible, easy.
Yeah, that's a great trail. I hiked that trail in 2022. And it was amazing. That was the first time I had hiked outside of New England. So being down there, and I think we took our time. I did it with my sister, Michelle. I think we did it it was less than 7 days, but I went six or 7 days, but we took our time. I didn't want to rush the experience, and the
Yeah.
weather was beautiful. And I loved the waterfalls there, particularly loved all the different waterfalls.
You can get a lot from there. You can get views, waterfalls. It's got a little bit of everything, I think.
When did the idea of hiking from Georgia to Maine on the AT first hit you?
Boy, so when I was a kid, I must have been 8 or 9, maybe. My brother and my mom and my dad and I all went on a trip somewhere, and we were somewhere in Rome. And I remember we were standing on the AT. We just went to go look at it or something. And my mom was like, let's go check it out. So I remember standing on somewhere on the AT, and we're looking up north, and she said, "Well, we can say we walked on the AT." And I remember looking north, and I'm like, "There's no way people hike this. Like, that is crazy to me." Um, and that kinda stuck with me for years and years and years, and somewhere 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, I decided, to look into it, and I started just Googling, what gear do I need, and how much is this gonna cost? How much time is this gonna take? And it has snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. Originally, I'd planned on doing it in 2025, um, and then the hurricane hit in October, and I started going, to, Barnardsville, Asheville, Swannanoa, Black Mountain to try to help out with that, and I started doing that every weekend, and it just seemed like my resources and time were better spent there at the time than doing the AT, so I started doing that for a long time, months and months, trying to just help out as much as I could there, and I know some of the trail they were saying was down, so I just decided to put it off a year. Here we are.
Yeah, Hurricane Helene, I think, made a lot of people pause their through hike attempts. But I was just blown away last year at how much work the volunteers got done to keep that treadway open, to open it up. And there was some pretty emotional sections of the trail down south, outside Irwin, particularly, about the amount of effort that went in to clear those down trees. And it was like walking through a lumber yard, and they had just cut a path with the chainsaws, had cut a path through piles and piles of logs. And, those communities down south, particularly the trail towns, they rely on the hikers, more
Mhm.
than I think some people realize. They're an essential part of their, financing for their communities and the jobs, the grocery stores, the hostels, the outfitters, resupplies, etc. So I think I was glad to be able to get out there because of all that effort that went into keeping that treadway open, and definitely made a point to try and spend my money in those towns when I moved through those areas that were most devastated.
Absolutely. And I don't think a lot of people understand, unless you've seen it with your own 2 eyes, how much damage it really was, because you're talking acres and acres and acres of just down trees, and I don't even know if a camera does it justice until you see it with your own 2 eyes, just how much it really devastated everything.
So what type of volunteer efforts were you involved in for the cleanup?
So, originally, I first went down there to help, uh, somewhere in Asheville. I can't remember the name now. They're a big company in Asheville, and I started out at like a we basically had a warehouse, and we were just taking in food donations and whatnot. And the hopes there was to what they needed was people to backpack things, full packs out to people that they couldn't get to. So originally that's what I went down there for, and it turned into I went to Barnardsville. And what I saw there was a whole nation coming down on small town communities, and the small town communities not knowing how to handle that. So they're just stacking stuff into community centers and fire departments and stuff. And what we started doing was loading pickup trucks up with stuff and trying. Nobody was coming to the community center to get this stuff, because the fact of the matter is people hadn't had a shower in 10, 15 days. They're not leaving their homes because people are looting. So the only way to get this stuff out into the community is take it door to door. And those people in North Carolina, and they're they're on their own. Like they don't want help. You don't know how many people I saw up there or went up there and said, "Do you need anything?" And they said, "No, just take it to the neighbors, or take it to such and such. Take it to somebody that needs it. Y'all don't have anything. Your whole house is gone. What do you mean take it to somebody else?" So we would take dog food or whatever else, and usually that's how I got in the door was, "Do you sure you don't need any dog food?" And then they would say, "Yeah, I could use a little dog food." "Well, come check out. Let's see what else I got here that you could use." And just made a rapport that way with the people, and did that for several months, and then it got into meeting with people to try to rebuild the whole community, and that was something that was way larger scope than what I was able to provide. So we just put them in contact with people that could rebuild the whole community. But we were able to try to get some houses rebuilt for some people that lost everything, and it was good. It was good for me. It was a growing experience for me. So I wouldn't take it back for the world what we did.
Yeah, it's amazing how these communities and the nation comes together when there's a natural disaster like that. And I thank you very much for all the work that you did and all the other volunteers. Get back to hiking. How would you describe your experience level as you're preparing to go into this AT through hike?
If nowadays I feel like I'm physically, so I started this just day hiking 2 years ago, just hitting Table Rock or my local park and just day hiking, 3 4 hours, whatever, taking my dog for a hike, and then somewhere it evolved into, all right, I'm gonna take a backpack, and I somehow got 35, 40 pounds on my back with a bunch of gear that was overweight, and I just went and spent the night overnight, decided I liked it, and now 2 years, fast forward 2 years, now I can do 20 plus miles. I think 26 would probably be my max right now, just not doing it every day. But so physically, I think my experience is pretty well there. Let's pray for the mental aspect of it because I think a lot of it's mental, just getting rained on every single day.
So your training is included doing some pretty big mile days, it sounds like. Did you do some overnights as well? I know you did the Foothills Trail.
Yes, sir. So on the Foothills Trail, I did it, and I started the day before on New Year's Eve. I started New Year's Eve. I did 11. The next day I did 17. The next day was 22, 20, and an 8. So I did it in 5 days. And I did the Foothills Trail this last time just to kind of gauge where my physical aspect was going to be. Um, so I think physically I'm prepared. I also go to the gym every night. I don't do a whole lot of cardio, but just try to build as much weight as I can, put a pack on as much weight as I can because I cannot lose it. I think I lost 3.5 pounds in 5 days on the Foothills Trail, and I don't have a whole lot of weight to lose.
Yeah,
So,
I was in a similar boat to you. I didn't have a lot of extra weight going into it to lose.
how did you maintain your weight? That's my big question: is how many calories do we have to eat to just maintain the weight, and then do we gorge ourselves when we're in town?
Yeah, yeah. I've put some videos out on that. I didn't eat enough. I wasn't able to maintain weight. By the time I got to Massachusetts, which is where I live close to the trail. So I was down about 28 pounds, which again, being, a 5'9", 167-pound man when I started, it's just not a lot. I didn't have a lot of weight to lose and it was difficult. And yes, what you just kind of said, there are some resources out there. I can't think of her name right now, but there is a woman that has a website. She's a registered dietitian. She loves backpacking. I've communicated with her on some emails. Um, I'll look it up later and I'll leave it in the description below for people who are interested in checking her website out. But she actually has like a calculator for hikers. And so you put in all your information and your age and your weight and your pack weight, approximate how many miles per day, the terrain, et cetera. And it kind of gives you an idea of what your calorie needs are going to be for a particular day. And then she actually has some recipes on her website as well. She doesn't
That's
sell the
cool.
food itself, but she provides you with recipes which you can make by going into towns and buying what you need. It's nothing exotic. Most of it is stuff that you can find at the grocery stores along the way. And yeah, that's the other big thing is when you're in trail towns or when you're off trail, uh, eat a lot. And then, like, if you go out to dinner that night, grab a meal for yourself and order a meal to go if you're leaving that next morning, and then pack that meal out the next day. I didn't do that. I should have been doing that. And because then you're going to have, you know, a bigger meal from the restaurant that you ate at the night before.
I think I'm eating like 3,500 calories now with like 1,000 calorie weight gainer shakes every night, and I've been doing that for 6 months now, just trying to pack on as much as I can pack on before I leave. But
Yeah, that's a good idea as well. My fit weight is 160, and so I put on 7 extra pounds, just trying to get a little bit extra fat on me before I went out, but it was a very short time before I lost all that. Um, you know, the protein shakes are a great idea, and I did try to incorporate them into my hike when I got back on trail, after taking some 0 days here in Massachusetts. That was part of my plan, was to do some protein shakes. The difficulty is in keeping them clean. You know, your shakers, those powders, they get all over everything. Um,
everything.
yeah, and so then go get to a water source, and you fill up your shaker, and you make your shake, and then you got to clean it up afterwards. And I mean, it's fine, but I just noticed it was more work too. You know, it wasn't as quick and easy.
Oh yeah, and I like to simplify everything.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the other advice would be to find at least 1 or 2 cold soaking meals that you like. You know, during the cold weather months, for me, I really wanted the hot meals, and I love a hot breakfast. It was hot oatmeal every morning for me, and coffee. And then in the evenings, I would generally rely on the dehydrated backpacker meals. The lunches were kind of you know, depending on the day, lunches could be protein bars and snacks, or pita bread with, you know, peanut butter and cheese, you know, different things for lunches. But I would find some 1 or 2 things that you like that you can cold soak, like couscous. Cold soak's really easy and well. And then you maybe take some jerky and cut some jerky up and throw it in with the cold soaked couscous. And then find, you know, if you can find on trail, or in the resupplies, if you can find, um, you know, those tuna fish packages get a little old over time, but there's always tuna fish packages, and they have a variety of different flavors now mixed in with all the different tuna fish and chicken. But if you can find one that's taco meat, ground beef, that's in that sealed pouch, that's got a lot of protein and a lot of flavor. And the 1 or 2 times I was able to find that, I would put that on a pita with some cheese and roll that up, and, you know, that was a good protein, carb-heavy meal.
I didn't know they had ground beef in the pouches. Oh yeah, I didn't know they had the ground beef in pouches.
Yeah, it's hard to find, but I found it a couple times. Hopefully, maybe it'll be easier for you this year when you're out there.
Winter for me.
Yeah, I think it was a Walmart, resupply, when I went to a Walmart, that I was able to find those. But again, Walmarts aren't always accessible to you. Um, it just depends. It just depends on the grocery store that you go to. Did you watch any YouTube hikers or channels, vloggers, when you were trying to prepare for your hike or trying to learn?
So the what I've watched, man, I've watched so much. So the first one I watched was Taylor, the New Hampshire hiker, when she did that hour and a half or 2 hour video on it, and man, I was immersed in her video because it was just, I was like, oh my goodness, I got to do this. And then from there, I think I started watching Homemade Wanderlust and Liz Kidler, and then now here recently it's been Laura Evelyn Ashley because I think she's going to do it this year. Um, she's been a wealth of information, and I can actually reach out to her and she went all the way to Hot Springs last time. So, she's got information up to there, and she's been absolutely wonderful with the questions and stuff. And then I've watched a lot of Frozen. I don't know what his channel name is, but
Mhm. Was there any specific advice?
uh,
Was there any specific advice that stuck with you, the most from listening to the YouTube vloggers?
not not really. There's just so much of it. YouTube's a wealth of information. You can get so much information on it. Um, I don't know if any's really just stuck out to me besides. So when I'm on trail, it's almost like a race to me. I don't know why I have to just go, 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 but I need to learn, especially those first 3 weeks to a month, to slow it down. And I hear a lot of the hikers, just slow it down that first month, until you get your trail legs. Don't just run because you will get injured. Um, I think that's the biggest takeaway I have learned from it, and just enjoy it. I haven't told anybody this. You heard it here first. Um, I originally wanted to do it in 4 months. I was going to try to do it in 120 days. Now I think that I'm just going to enjoy it, and it takes as much time as it takes. So,
Yeah, 4 months would be a pretty good pace. There was a YouTube vlogger last year who I think he did it in 4 months. His name is escaping me right now, his channel, but, I got a chance to meet him. I met him in no, Franklin. I think I met him in Franklin, early on in the hike, and then he was doing big mile days. He was moving at a good pace, and, we would keep in touch periodically as he made his way northbound, and I remember I was in Virginia, and he texted me one day and said, "How am I doing?" And he said, "Be careful because, I would consider him to kind of be out in front of the class of 2025 Nobel thru hikers." And he said people were dropping left and right around him with injuries. They were just getting hurt, people that he was hiking around. So I think tempering your desire to kind of always be moving is really good advice. You don't need to fly through Georgia. Take that time. Even if you're capable of doing 20-mile days, I wouldn't recommend you try and do those. Enjoy it.
I think I think what I'm gonna try to do is just 10 miles. I think I'm gonna do 10 miles, especially all the way through the Smokies. So that first month, just turn it down to 10 miles. That's my goal right now. If I can get 10, I'll be golden.
Yeah. I wanted to take you back to the Foothills Trail because I did watch some of your videos from there. Walk us through the moment. I think your first day on the Foothills Trail, you lost some equipment or you forgot your tent stakes or something. Take us
So,
back to that moment when you realized that.
oh, we gotta bring that up. So that first I was going out, it was the end of days, Randino's end of days hiking, or that little thing, and I was trying to jump ahead of them a day. Um, and I've always used the Big Agnes Copper Spur and the Nemo Hornet. So I was used to a semi freestanding tent. Well, I had just switched to the Durson X Mid too. Never took it out, set it up in the yard, never took it out. Threw it in my pack, ready to go. Started down the trail. Was going to hike until dark because I got started a little late. Hiked all the way up till 5 o'clock. Found a little spot on the beach. Got my tent out. I've actually got it on camera, but I didn't post that. Got my tent out, shook it out, and I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be good. And realized I didn't have my tent stakes, so I tried rocks, I tried sticks, I tried everything. It just wasn't gonna do it. So I was gonna do the whole 5 days, and I was like, I'm not gonna fight it. So I'll just go back and then I'll start again next week. And I remember coming out as I'm hiking out, I ran into Fresh Grounds and he was like, "You didn't try steaks or sticks?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I tried sticks. I tried everything." And they wouldn't stick in the sand. But yeah, I felt definitely like a newbie. And I wasn't going to post it or I wasn't going to share it on YouTube, but I was like, you know what? You know, it happens. It happens to anybody. It happens to people that are new to hiking. It happens to people that have been doing it a year. When you start switching up gear and stuff, especially if you're not used to that particular piece of gear, then it's easy to do. And
It
I wanted to
happens.
show people that it's easy.
It happens all the time, and if you don't, you know, uh, it was not unusual to find tent stakes at the tending or at the campsites. At least twice I found the tent stake bag filled with steaks at 2 different
Yeah,
campsites, and, you ask people as you go further up the trail, but you don't know whether the people were SOBO or NOBO, and, um, but I remember just thinking to myself, "Oh, they're gonna be so upset when they get to the camp that night," and, of course, the Foothills Trail doesn't have any shelters, but the AT has shelters, so you could probably manage hiking shelter to shelter until you got out, to be able to get some new tent stakes somewhere, but you ended up cowboy camping that first night. Was that your first
yes,
time cowboy camping?
that is. And I remember, at least it wasn't freezing cold that night. But I remember I said, "Well, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm a cowboy camp." And I remember as it's getting dark, my headlamps like went across a rock, and I saw these green eyes run across the rock, and I thought that it was a mouse. It was big enough to be a mouse. I was like, "Okay, it's cool," but it was a spider. And I was like, "Oh, not a spider." I can deal with snakes. I can deal with mice, spiders. I'm good.
It's funny. Yeah,
Made
and,
them crawl.
yeah, that's the thing too, when you don't have the protection. I mean, the cooler weather, you don't have the bugs, but cowboy camp in the warmer weather, of course, the ticks have easy access to you and ants and spiders and stuff like that, and, I know there's some poisonous spiders down your way and certainly down south that you kinda have to be careful of, and, um, so I believe in your video, you also saw a black bear for the first time while you were on trail. Tell us about that experience. How far away was it from you?
Man, that was an experience. So I'm coming down the trail and I'm happy, it's the end of the day. I'm getting to eat some pizza that day, some sort of food. And I passed a man and a woman. They said, "There's a bear down there." And I was, "Oh man, I want to see this." So I head around the curve. It was two curves. I was a mile from the Table Rock entrance, from the Table Rock State Park side, and came around the curve. And it was probably 100 yards from me, but didn't bother anybody. I don't think a lot of people are worried about bears or scared of the bears, and I don't think for the most part they're not going to hurt you as long as they're not used to just being fed. You know what I mean? They're not out. I think a lot of people associate the black bear with a grizzly bear and think that it's just going to attack them. And I don't know if that's the case. I don't know that for sure, but I don't think that's the case.
Did
We
it
have a
change
lot.
how you think about hiking alone when you ran into the bear?
No, not really. So we have a lot of bear where I'm from because I only live, 15 minutes from the Foothills Trail. But so I've grown up around bear and, they're in the yard and whatnot. So they don't really bother me that much. I think spiders freak me out worse than the bears.
Yeah, well, everyone has something that they don't like. The black bears for people that aren't, from the Northeast or down south and have never lived in an area where there's any bears. I've seen more concern from those people, but the black bears always that I've encountered have always turned and ran the other way or treed themselves. They don't want anything to do with people. I mean, if you have your food out, they're mostly busy at night too. They tend to be out a lot at night. So if you don't have your food properly stored, and you'll see it on trail too, there'll be um, a surprising number of people that do not hang their food. Um, they sleep with their food. Some people brag about it. Um, Most people don't even talk about it. You just see them putting their food bags in their tents with them. But I,
I think when we're doing that, we're opening ourselves to harming the bear because then if the bear, I don't know, if the bear attacks you or gets in your tent, then it's the bear's fault. You know what I mean? And then we're euthanizing the bear because now we have a problem bear, or it's having to be moved because we have a problem bear when all it
Yeah,
took
it's not
was
fair.
us just throwing away.
It's not fair to the bears. It's not fair to your fellow hikers too, because sometimes you're at a camp and if you're not properly hanging your food, you might be drawing bears in to the camp area. And then unfortunate encounters can happen where maybe, someone is just walking to the privy or, getting up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. And then all of a sudden they have an encounter with a bear who's entering the camp or the shelter area because again, somebody didn't store their food. When you get up north, it does get a little bit more difficult for hangs, trying to find trees. And I'm not going to sit here and say I never slept with my food because I did, but it was on very few occasions that I did that. And, I can remember spending upwards of 45, 50 minutes sometimes just trying to find a tree to hang my bear bag from. And again, once you get up north, once you get up, um, you'll see too, they don't have bear boxes always. And it's just very difficult to find a place to safely hang your food. And bears are the the one animal that people talk about, but raccoons,
Yeah,
mice,
I, I've
mice can get up into your bear hangs.
I have slept with my food before. So I'm not a saint, and I think what freaks me out the most is the mice because they will chew a hole through your tent. We did some on the Artlobe Trail and slept in shelters there, and I remember all night mice running around my head. And I think that freaks me out more than a bear or anything else. But
Yeah, for sure. I did have that happen to Ferrari, one of the hikers in my tramley, the over the hill gang. He had a mouse chew a hole in his tent and get into his tent, and I don't believe he had any food in there. But I mean, you could just have a wrapper from your protein bar in your pocket that you forgot to take out. I mean, they will come in looking for any bits and scraps of food that they can. They can smell it. It'll draw them in.
well, I think our packs smell like food too. So I think that
Yeah,
if your tent's in your pack, it probably smells like food, and they're just curious animals, I would guess.
yeah. It sounds like you have your gear dialed in pretty good. What's one piece of gear that you're really confident in?
Um, I'm really confident in the tent. I'm really confident in the new Enlightened Equipment sleeping bag that I got. That thing it is really, it puts, I hate to say this, puts the Nemo Disco to shame, in my opinion. The loft on the Enlightened Equipment is amazing to me. Um, what else? I'm really confident in the Topo Traverses. I love those shoes. But there again, I can't recommend them to anybody because shoes are so specific to the person that what works for me wouldn't work for somebody else. And um, the Durston pack, I'm extremely confident in it. About all my gear, I think that I'm pretty confident in. I've went through a big testing phase where I was buying gear because YouTube said that I needed it. Just, if like the Jet Bull or anything else. This is before I got really deep into it. And now I've got a bunch of gear that's just so heavy and stuff that I wouldn't need. I've got several Osprey packs here that are 4.5 pounds, you know. So I think I'm confident in all my gear now.
I think I ended up using a total of 3 backpacks, during my through hike. I started with the Z-Packs, Arc Hall, and I switched to a well, that one had a malfunction. A piece of the carbon stay broke on it, and then I ended up with a ULA, which I really liked that pack, but then there was some things I didn't like about it. And then when I got up to, geez, where was I? Up in Massachusetts, I believe I switched to a Hyperlight Unbound, backpack, and that was my favorite of the three, though. But all three worked well. Z-Packs had a great return policy. They ended up giving me all my money back because of the stay that had broken. And the ULA I still have here, and I'll use it. But that Hyperlight to me seemed to be the best of the three. Is there any one piece of equipment that you're still unsure about that you're taking with you?
Think probably, I guess what I'm more nervous about is battery banks. I feel like for whatever reason, I'm having a lot of trouble with battery banks. I've got the Nightcore 10,000 milliamp, and for whatever reason, it's new, and I still can't get it more than a charge out of it. I can get a charge on my phone and maybe a charge on a watch, and especially if it's cold, it's dead. Then I have a Anchor 20,000 milliamp that I burnt up last week, so they're sending me another one. Other than that, I don't think there's any that I have to turn around and look at all my gear laid out over here. I don't think there's any that I'm nervous about. I think I'm pretty confident in all
Did you
of it.
change? Did you change anything after your foothills shakedown hike?
So I changed the Kakwa. I have the Durston Kakwa 40, and I originally was going to do the AT, try to do the AT with the 40, but with the winter gear and stuff, there's no way I can do it. So I switched to the Kakwa 55. I went from the Nemo Disco 30 bag to the Enlightened Equipment 20 quilt. And I also added a Gossamer Gear, the 1/8" thin light foam pad for underneath my Nemo Tensor all season, just because somehow when I cowboy camped, I guess is the only thing that I can think that would have done it. It popped a little hole somewhere in it, and I cannot find the hole. So I wound up replacing a pad. So now I've got the Gossamer Gear thin light to put under it so it doesn't slide and hopefully give me some peace of mind. Other than that, I think I think I've pretty much got everything else the same.
So are you trying to get your pack are you more lightweight or are you more into comfort, which would be a little bit heavier?
Right now, I weighed it the other day and I'm 16.9 on a base weight. That's with all the winter gear and um, all that stuff. I'm hoping, usually I'm sitting around 13 if it's summer, if it's warm out. But right now it's 15.9. So I'm hoping with food, I already know in my head I'm gonna have to carry 10 pounds of food to maintain weight. So I'm thinking I'm gonna be somewhere around 26. I would like to get it closer to 20, but we'll see. I'm hoping once I get north of Virginia, maybe I can go to the Kakwa 40 and get rid of some winter gear. We'll see.
A lot of that too, the food carries will depend on your hiking routine. What's your general hiking routine going into this? Like for example, mine was 3.5 days of hiking, get off, spend the night at a hostel or a hotel, resupply, shower, laundry, and then if I didn't take a zero, go back out that next day. What's your hiking schedule looking like right now?
So basically I'm gonna try to do the same thing that you did. I'm gonna try to do 3. I really don't want to do any more than 4 before I try to get to a hostel and try to get to a resupply. I think there again, so I think that's my biggest fear of this whole thing is just the logistics side of it and trying to figure out. I know I can hike, I know I can go out there and do the hike, but it's the logistics side of it. It's trying to figure out, where's my first stop and at what mile is it. Originally, when I started this, I was going to try to do food drops, and the logistics of that is just a nightmare. I'm more of a let's get a plan and let's just go and we'll wing it and play it by ear, and that kinda scares me now.
You'll get into a rhythm, you'll find, and you can adjust it as you need to. But I think the 3.5 days for me and for many other hikers that I was hiking with and around, it's kind of a similar schedule that they followed getting off trail because it allows you to carry, a little less weight. I think, during the winter months, when I started, my pack weight was probably 28 pounds. Then when I got in the warmer weather, I wasn't carrying like my micro spikes and my winter gear. I probably floated around 23 to 25 pounds, um, depending. But I felt that that was comfortable. I did see people on trail. I hiked with a woman. She was amazing. Her trail name is Chicken Louise, and she was a very strong hiker. And she would carry a week's worth of food. And it just I would not recommend that for the average person. But she's a badass, and she wanted to spend more time in the woods on trail and less time in the towns, resupplying. And she would go out. I spent a good month or more, hiking with her. I think she would go out around 45 pounds out of a full resupply. That's what her pack weighed, 45 pounds.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
And
That's a lot of weight.
I used to say to her all the time, I'd be like, the only reason you're not, 100 miles ahead of me is because of all the weight you're carrying. Otherwise, she would have been much further up the trail with a lighter pack. But you know what? You hike your own hike. You'll hear that constantly on the trail. Hike your own hike. And she did. And I have respect for her. It's just not something I would recommend. I think it makes it harder. I think it increases your chance of injury. And for the average person, 45 pounds, frankly, anything over 35 or so pounds is it's a lot of weight. It's a lot of weight to carry up and over these mountains and, day after day. And, is there a certain part of the Appalachian Trail that, going into this that you're kind of intimidated about right now?
I wouldn't say intimidated. I think the part what I'm looking forward to getting to is, anywhere past Harper's Ferry, because I feel like anything from Harper's Ferry down to Georgia is the same type scenery as you find on the foothills trail. There's rhododendron, green tunnels, pine trees. So I feel like, once you get to Harper's Ferry and up to the Whites and all that, then you're getting into some different scenery from down here, from the southeast side of it. So I think there's nothing that I'm really intimidated by. I don't think. I wouldn't say. I'm ready to go see what else is out there. So the Whites are.
Yeah, well, sure. Well, for sure, the whites can be intimidating for most of the AT through hikers, except for the people that live up in the Northeast that had been up there hiking in the whites before. They kind of have that experience of being up there, so they're a little bit more confident. But what about the mental side of the Appalachian Trail through hike and being away from home and your normal life? Does that concern you or worry you at all?
So the only thing, not I wouldn't say it worries me to be away from it. It's 5 6 months of your life that you can never replace, and that's something that not a lot of people get to experience. The hardest thing for me is going to be being away from my dog because she's very dependent on me, and I don't think it's the people. The thing I'm having to like mentally prepare myself for is those days where it's going to be raining for 3 or 4 days and it's going to be cold, and they say don't quit on a hard day. So I just gotta remember that. Don't quit on a hard day. And I've met several hikers. I did some of the Virginia section before, and I tried to tell other people that were through hiking it, this builds character. If you decide that you want to quit, wait a week, reevaluate it, and I guarantee you won't want to quit again. So I try to like push that into people and just try to be positive with other people, and I hope that the same will come back to me, and I can remember all that and repeat it to myself. So we'll see.
That's great. Having a plan for the days when your motivation is drops, or it's just your motivations in the dump, is important. And nobody wants to talk about quitting, but I think it's good to have a conversation with yourself. And have you thought about what quitting would feel like and how you'd handle that moment, specifically if you do feel like you want to quit?
I have not. At this point, I have pushed quitting out of my head. It's just not. It's not going to happen. I can't unless I'm seriously injured and can't. And even at that, I've thought about if I got injured, do I wait it out? How bad is the injury? Because this is something that I've wanted for so long, and now I've got to do it. And then once I get past this, I would really like to do the Triple Crown, but let's get past this one first.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think staying positive and the mental part of the hike is probably the most difficult part of it because when you're going through it, like you said, with the weather, and then when you if you do suffer weight loss, which you can expect to lose weight, if you don't get a good night's sleep day after day or so many days in a row, it's easy to fall into this kind of low energy, depressed state. So, my mental attitude was I wasn't quitting. I mean, I would die on that trail before I would quit, unless, I had like a really serious injury that forced me off trail, like a fractured bone or some kind of, torn ligament, something serious, because you will experience a lot of discomfort and pain. And it's amazing what you can push through with your body if your mind tells your body what to do. And your feet will be sore every day. And there's going to be aches and pains and cramps. And, having a positive mindset that includes, I'm not quitting this. This is a important goal of mine, and I'm going to push through this and make it happen. I think that's what carried me on those days where, you know, didn't feel like it.
And I try to, as I talk to other people or other hikers or people that have through hiked it or tried to through hike it, I try to talk to or ask a question, what do you recommend? And I had a shuttle driver for the Artlow. I cannot think of his name, but it's Travel Light Shuttles or Travel Light something. And he had told me, if you can afford it or if there's a way, on those hard days, just go into town or take a zero. So I think that's something that's kind of stuck with me as well. If it's going to be 5 days of rain or something, or if cold rain, just take a day in town or something. So if I feel like I need rest or I need to get off of here for a second, I think I'm just going to try to take a day in town and a 0 day and see what happens. I can't quit. So there's that. I think I would beat myself up. I think I would beat myself up if I quit too bad. So I can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, at some point on trail, you'll have similar conversations with other through hikers, and unfortunately, you'll see people quit. I ran into someone up here in Massachusetts. You know, we were at a trailhead down in near Great Barrington, and I ran into a through hiker. I hadn't met him yet, but he was visibly shaken and upset, and he was on the phone, and we've been talking to family down south, and I approached him and said, "You okay? Like, is there anything you need?" And he shared that he was quitting. He just had made that decision in that parking lot that he was not getting back on trail. When he felt that he was kind of running down what he felt were his mistakes. He lost a lot of weight, didn't take breaks, was trying to do big 20+ mile days, and just got to the point. I mean, Massachusetts is 1,500 miles almost to in the trail, and it was so hard to see him in the state of mind that he was in. And we gave him a ride into Great Barrington, and I brought him to the hotel where he could check in, and that was the last time I saw him. But yeah, he was heading home, and again, it kind of he saw a lot of me in him too. With the state that he was in. But again, having that I'm not quitting this mental attitude is what pushed me through.
Yeah, you have those days where, it's bad, and then for me, it's so there's some days where like I said, I've section hiked some parts of it. There's those days where you're like, "Who would do this to theirself? Like, this is crazy hard." But then you get to a shelter and there's 10 or 5 or 15 people sitting around eating dinner, and they're telling you about their day or telling about somebody else they saw on trail or whatever else or a few days ago, and you're like, "Oh, yeah, this is why I do this. That's why I like to do it." I like to talk to everybody and see everybody else's story, and that rejuvenates me, being able to just see somebody else having fun out there, and, "Oh, yeah, that's why I do this." So
Yeah, and I hope you don't mind me asking this, but I did notice in your foothills video that at the beginning of the video, you took a quiet moment to pray, and I was just wondering, what does that kind of moment mean to you on the trail?
So I'm very faith-based, and I've just gotten that way in the past maybe 3, 4 years of my life. So being out there and just talking to God and just trying to I don't know, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one. That was just that's a good question, and I feel like I don't know. I don't know how to answer that one.
I think you did answer it. Having a belief in a higher person, higher being. Um, you'll see when you're out there on trail, that can be very helpful, whether you're religious or not. I've talked about it on this podcast with other people. I believe that most true hikers at some point will kind of have a better understanding of themselves and the universe, and that there's a bigger world out there than the one that you and I are currently sitting in at home. When you're out there on trail for weeks and weeks and months, you just, I don't know, the noise, the distraction of society, social media, and all that, just it's not there. And on those, you nailed it too. On those days that you're feeling worn down and can I keep going? It's the people, it's the community. And I would seek out companionship from other hikers when I felt like that. And I very much enjoyed, just spending, could have been 2 or 3 days with a hiker, particularly if they were faster than me. I knew that wasn't like Hydro was a woman that I hiked with. She was getting ready to go to grad school, and she was through hiking the AT, and she's from New Hampshire, and she was having a little bit of issues with her feet, so her 20+ mile days that she was doing, were a little less, and I really, coming out, it was in Virginia, and Virginia was tough for me emotionally, mentally. My wife had gotten off trail in Damascus, so I was alone, and it was great. I spent 2 or 3 days hiking with her, and again, you can seek that out with the other hikers in the community, and you can get the support because they're all going through it. Everybody's going through it.
How hard was it for you? I know you asked me, something that I was nervous about, or I think now that I think about that more, that what I'm nervous about is going from those days, and going from the trail and then getting off the trail when it's done. How do you manage life after trail? How do you, because you've set up goals for yourself every day. You're knocking down those goals. You're going from a simpler time of life, and you're going from that companionship with other people and that are going through the same thing that you're going through. And then you're having to reinsert yourself back into life. And I find that even after just doing 4 or 5 days on the trail, you come back into this life and you're like, this is meaningless. This hustle and bustle is
Yeah,
really, it's not, it's
yeah. I worked in law enforcement for 30 years, in a small city here of about 45,000 residents, and saw a lot, did a lot, and so being out on trail for me, one of my big goals for being out there was to kind of hopefully put things into perspective, and I needed that routine that I got on trail. I tend to be a more regimented person anyway, probably because of my career, but it was very difficult to assimilate back. I didn't have that trail community around me anymore. I said it, I think recently, there's a big difference between being able to just go to the refrigerator and get what you want to eat, take a hot shower, not being out in the elements, in the cold and the wet, um, being able to be inside and seek shelter from that. Um, it's taken a while. It's taken a while for me. I've been off trail since the end of August of last year, but it was a positive experience, and I'm still learning how it has positively impacted my life. Um, and I YouTubed my hike, put it out there, for different reasons. The biggest reason was I wanted to have something that I could look back on when I'm much older, and I don't have the best of memory, and wanted something I could look back on and relive. And I wanted to get back to the trail community because I personally learned so much by watching YouTubers and like Taylor the New Hampshire hiker and Liz Kidder. Quicksand is another guy I watched. Hawk. The list goes on and on. Certainly, Homemade Wanderlust, Homemade Wanderlust, Dixie. All these people really help me kind of visualize, because that's the type of learner I am. I'm a visual learner. What it would be like to be out there on trail, and I wanted to do that as well. I wanted to share the experience, and you're sharing also going to vlog, and I was curious, why did you decide to document your hike on YouTube?
So originally, I did this for my aunt. So I would go on a trail. She wasn't able to. So a little backstory with that: when she was 18, she got cancer, and the treatment of the day then was cobalt radiation, and it just killed her body. So she wasn't able to do things like this. So I started out just like videoing it, going out day hikes, videoing it, and bringing it back home and letting her see that. And she kept saying, "You need to start a YouTube. You need to start a YouTube." And at the time, I was like, I just don't feel comfortable, being on camera because it takes a lot of getting used to um, talking to a little electronic box. But eventually, I did it, decided to do it, and here we are now, trying to do it. And I think I'm doing it because I want to have something to look back on the same way you did, and I think that's the biggest part of why I'm doing it. But now I think that I'm doing it because there's other people out there that are messaging me or whatever else that maybe can't get out there or can't right now, and they need some experience. Like what do I need to take? What do I need to carry with me? Whatever else, what do I need to expect? And I think that's why I'm doing it. And I want to say thank you for taking care of us with your job, and thank you for your service. And I think what you're doing here with the whole podcast is a wealth of information. I think it's awesome. So thank
I
you.
appreciate that. Yeah, and I missed being out there with the trail community, and this is a way for me. I've been having a great time with the podcast, and we were talking a little bit off camera before we started. I really, I miss creating content. You'll get into this routine. You'll find when you're out there, it is work, and it's not for everybody. But once you get into this routine of creating content and the support you're going to get from the people who view your channel, and even you don't have to have tens of thousands of subscribers. I mean, the hiking community it's a niche, small niche community, and somebody like Taylor and some of the other who I would call more famous AT through hike vloggers, for them to have 30, 40, 50,000 subscribers, that's a lot of subscribers amongst the niche that is the trail community, which mostly is represented by, the AT, the PCT, the CDT, and some of the other trails like the Pinhoti Trail and John Muir Trail, etc. Um, so we take care of one another. You'll see that when you're on trail. And I just like kind of, I think what you were saying is I feel like I still want to be part of that trail community. And if I can help, by putting putting some of these podcasts out there and getting people like yourself on that are just getting ready to start their hike, having people that were successful on their through hike, having people who got hurt in the middle of their through hikes and had to get off trail. I think there's lessons learned there for everybody. Um, so you'll get more comfortable talking on the camera as time goes on for sure. I'm sure you're nervous about putting your journey out there publicly.
So, originally I was, now I just don't care, if people are gonna see me how they see me or whatever else. I'm just gonna be me and do me, and if people wanna watch it, they can watch it. If not, then, I'll have a great video log that I can look back on when I'm 80 years old.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and the other big thing too is your family and friends, just they're gonna be worried about you. I have an 80 she's now 82-year-old mother who lives in Florida, and she would tell me it was comforting for her to hear my voice every day, on my daily videos I would put out, and your friends would worry about you too, and my daughters, and so it was an opportunity for me to share the hike with them, and so they could also see that I'm okay out there and that I'm not alone, that I'm with all these people because that's the other piece of advice I would give you that, was given to me is that turn that camera around, ask people for permission if they're okay with being in your videos and ask them why they're out there hiking and you know, keep keep doing that because you'll have those memories of those people to take back home with you afterwards as well. So I have some rapid fire questions for you. So you just first thought off your top of your head to these questions. Tent or shelter?
tent.
Coffee or no coffee?
No, I think you need your caffeine, but no, I'm not a coffee drinker, so I've gotta figure out something else, but I may be a coffee drinker real soon.
Heavy pack or extra snacks?
Extra snacks.
Do you like to do an early start in your mornings, or do you like to have it take your time and go slow?
I like an early start. There's just something about
What's your biggest
early start.
What's your biggest fear right now?
Getting off trail and not being able to deal with life.
One luxury item that you're bringing.
My pup, my Flextail Zero.
And what's one thing you're carrying, starting the trail with that you think you'll probably end up mailing home?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know that one. I don't have a rapid fire for that one.
Prefer hiking in cold weather or the heat?
Cold, absolutely cold.
And do you think you're going to finish with a tramily, or do you think you'll be mostly solo during your through hike?
Hope and pray a tramily. I'm a people person.
Yeah, that's great. There's a lot of benefits to being in a tramily. You get the benefit from each other's trail magic because there's always a family member or a friend, somebody reaching out, and um, it's great when you're on trail and someone says, "Oh, my sister-in-law's brother is wants to meet us tomorrow at the trailhead and bring us into town," or someone's just showing up with some trail magic. It's nice. It's nice to share those family and friend resources that you'll have along the way. So what do you hope to you'll be able to say at the end of this hike when you're on top of Katahdin? What do you hope you'll be able to say that this trail gave you?
I mean, I hope it gives me a lot. I hope it gives me, guidance into the future. I hope it opens up doors. Um, right now, my job is held for me, but who knows? I'm here to open up some doors and to branch out into the rest of the world, get out of the little small town living. So I hope that it just gives me guidance on what to do next, where to go next.
Yeah. Do you have anything you want to say to anybody from the AT class of 2026 that may be listening to the podcast or watching it?
Um, we're going all the way to Katahdin. Everybody is, don't give up. If you see me out there, say, hey, um, don't give up. Just don't give up. It builds character. You'll, you'll thank yourself in the end. Even on those hard days, just keep going. Just keep pushing. Take your time. Just get to the top.
I'll put a link in the video description of your YouTube channel. But how can people follow you? What's your YouTube channel name?
It's Hardline Adventures on YouTube, and then it's Hardline Adventures on Instagram. Um, I'm I'm building the Instagram right now, but there's a few pictures up there. But Hardline Adventures on YouTube.
That's great, Bradley. I appreciate you so much for taking the time to join me today, and I think we covered a lot of ground. And I'm excited for you, and I think you're going to be successful. And if there's anything you need along the way, you've got my contact information. And when you get up here to Massachusetts, we'll make an effort to connect, and I'll try to give you some trail magic while you're up here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for the opportunity. I think what you're doing here is absolutely awesome. Just thank you. It was my pleasure being on here and talking to you. Can't wait to get up there.
All right, Bradley. Be well, my friend.
Thank you.